Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of pre-live.
Pre-live. I got to turn up the volume too, though.
Okay.
You hear me there, folks? I will be live streaming from our garden here in the North Pacific. It's what time is it now? It's probably around, I guess, 4 o'clock, 4:30, something like that. So I brought my laptop outside. It's beautiful out. So tomorrow looks like it's going to be a nice day. So when we do our live stream, what's that? Yeah, it's 4:45. When we do our live stream, 4:45 Pacific time, when we do our live stream, I will bring the computer out here so we can chat. And I don't know how long I'm going to be on here for, maybe 45 minutes, something like that. All right, thanks for watching. Your connection is unstable. Please wait a while.
Oh.
We try reconnecting.
Oh. Uh-oh. So what? Did it not? Did it stop?
Yep.
It stopped?
Yeah.
So now you're not live?
No.
You were live?
I think I'm live now. Hang on.
Oh.
End stream. No, I don't want to end stream.
Oh.
So are you guys seeing me there? Is anybody watching this? I want to do a test run. Let me put my glasses on.
You know what? I'll go inside.
Yeah.
I'll go see.
Yeah.
If I can see you.
This is just kind of a test. Welcome to live chat. What's up? Okay, we got some stuff happening here. Palm Tree Dude, what's up? You're live now. I can still see you, Palm Tree Dude. Good.
Oh, good.
Well, so it seems to be working. So you can see behind me there, folks, we got some Trachycarpus fortunei palms. These ones here I grew from seed a long time ago, and they grow much faster if they're in better soil. These are in pretty crappy soil, but they are still green. We use a lot of organic matter on them, and it seems to keep them happy. We had about 23 millimeters of rain yesterday. So for you folks that aren't into millimeters, that is just a hair under an inch. 25 millimeters equals an inch. So we had 23 millimeters in the gauge, and that was a pretty awesome thing. Hi, Alec. I see you there. And let me put my glasses on. My eyes are a little messed up here, man. Had a new lens in this eye in January, so that's my bionic eye. Jack, you're live.
He's live.
So I'm doing a test run here. Tomorrow is my official live day. I want to see how long my battery lasts in this computer too, on this laptop. That's why I brought it out. So 5:30 tomorrow. Hope everybody's doing good out there. Hope you're having really good weather like we're having here in the Southern Gulf Islands. It's been a very dry spring here. And so that rain we had was a welcome relief for the palms and Exotica. My trackies are yellow this year. How should I green them up? Well, you can hit them with some slow release palm food. If they still sell Lily Miller palm food at the store, they used to sell it in the nursery here. I think it's a 10-5, 10-5-8, something like that. But you know what else you can use? You can actually even use grass food. Slow release grass food. It usually lasts for about 8 to 10 weeks, something like that. 24-4-12. High first number is the nitrogen. But there is actually special palm food you can get for them. Harder to get in Canada.
Coffee
but if
grounds.
Well, yeah. We use, you know what we use? We use a lot of organic matter in our garden. So compost, manure. We buy bags of manure at the store. Steer manure. Yeah, Wendy says coffee grounds. We use coffee grounds too. The only problem with coffee grounds is that they do kind of solidify along the top of the ground after a while. So you got to kind of chop them up so the water will pass through. Otherwise, it forms a crust and the water doesn't go through. Mix it with some compost. But if you put some compost around them, they'll green up. Every time you water it, that will leach in and it will green them up. And what do we got there? Hi, everyone. Hey, I'm in Virginia too, just south of Richmond. Right on. Well, we grow a lot of palms from Virginia here. I've had a lot of palm seeds sent to me from Virginia, and I've sent hundreds upon hundreds to Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia, Virginia Beach, and how do you say it? Potomac Falls, Virginia? You'd probably know. Anyway, Virginia is a great place to grow palms. They get that summer heat, and and they love sable minor grow there very good. And I know over in Virginia Beach they grow a lot of sable palmetto, and even in Norfolk too. Great climate over there. And so look, we got a few people listening here and watching. That's a good thing. And this is my old computer, so it looks like the little camera seems to be working okay. So just recently, if you're looking at these palms behind me, there's a cluster of them here. We like to cluster our palms together. It makes it look a little bit more tropical. This is mostly Trachycarpus fortunei. There's actually a Trachycarpus hybrid in there too. It's hard to see, and I don't want to bring my laptop over there. But These have had no chemical fertilizer whatsoever. That's just coffee grounds, manure, compost, seaweed, and we water them, and they do very well, especially in the summer months. And if I tilt this up, you can see the native arbutus tree is growing right beside, and that's a Pacific madrona in full bloom. So that is Canada's one of Canada's only native broadleaf evergreen trees beside the Pacific wax myrtle that are only found here on the Pacific coast of Canada. Hey Joe, nice to see you live. Dylan from Chicago. Hey Dylan, what's up, bud? I'm always on the Palm Fathers channel. Yes, Palm Father's a good dude. Anybody that grows palms is a good dude. So I'll tell you a little bit about my history in growing palms. I've been growing them for a long time, and I got started in back in exotic plants in 1970 when I was 6 years old. That's how I got introduced to exotic plants. Up on the Sunshine Coast, just north of Vancouver. The only way to get there is by ferry. In a little place called Seashell. That's where Wendy's mom lives and her sister. There was a grand opening of the Trail Bay Mall. And I think it was around December 1970, and they were giving away free plants. You could pick out a tropical plant, 4-inch plants, and they're in 4-inch pots. I picked out a Schefflera, and I had that plant for 20 years, but that was my introduction to exotic plants when I was 6. And just shortly after that, my aunt went to Hawaii, and she sent me a postcard with, of course, palm trees on it from Waikiki. And palm trees, they were implanted in my brain from an early age, the seed. And I've been addicted to palms ever since I was a small kid. So when anybody would travel somewhere, and even when I was a kid, I'd say, was there palm trees there? And it wasn't till about 1985 I actually bumped into a palm tree in Vancouver. So before that, I didn't even know they grew in Vancouver. And I was in Stanley Park, very famous park in Vancouver. And it's very interesting. They got a seawall around it. It's kind of surrounded by water. And I was standing by the old monkey cages, and I looked up, and there's a 30-foot palm tree. I go, damn, palm trees do grow here. So I went to the nursery, and I bought all the wrong palm trees. I says, I want what's growing in Stanley Park. And the guy sold me Washingtonia robusta. So I stuck them all in the ground. I bought half a dozen of them or so. They were 5-gallon size. And the guy at the nursery didn't even know what he's talking about. Oh, yeah, they'll get their shaggy trunk after. So I had these palm trees, and I remember the neighbor coming over. This is when I lived southeast of Vancouver in Zone 8A, 8B. And he says, palm trees won't grow here. Those are going to die. He says, no, they'll grow here. I saw them growing in Stanley Park. So I built little shelters over top of each one, 2x2s, with a little piece of plastic on top. Well, Zone 8A is a heck of a lot colder than it is here on Salt Spring Island. And the first winter, man, it was brutal. It was so brutal, they just turned brown right away. And he comes over again, the neighbor. This is weeks later, after the freeze. The palm trees are, the Washingtonia robusta are looking like crap. And he says, oh, I told you they're dead. And I says, no, they'll green up, because I went to the nursery again. I says, hey man, my palm trees are, oh, they'll green up in the spring. And they did die. So I had to do my research, and I did my research, and I got the right palm, the Trachycarpus fortunei. So I went and bought a bunch of small Trachycarpus fortunei, and I've been growing those things ever since. And by the way, the palm trees, the 2 palm trees that were planted in Stanley Park were planted in 1968, and they were donated by the city of Odessa, Russia, or Odessa, Ukraine. And shortly after, one of them was ripped off. And it was this topic amongst us Palm Society guys. I'm in the Palm Society, and I've been in it for years, since the 1980s. Whatever happened to that other palm tree? Where did it go? Is it still alive? Well, this is a very interesting story. I was in a garden. Actually, I wasn't in a garden. I was in a rubber dinghy on a lake here. And we have 11 lakes on Salt Spring. And I'm cruising around the edge of the lake, and I spot a palm tree. This was in the late 1980s, probably 1989. And then I went to meet the owners quite a few years later, and they told me about the palm tree. They said the guy built that house in 1964. And in 1968, he ripped off a palm tree when it was small from Stanley Park. That palm tree is 25 feet tall. It's got 25 feet of trunk on it now, so it is actually growing on Salt Spring, believe it or not. Let's see what we got here. Say, my family house in Charlotte, Florida. Hi, Dylan. Hi, Alec.
Florida.
Best way to go natural. No need for chemicals. You know it, Alec. Sable Minor Cherokee is native to 7B, Northern Alabama. Yep, that's a tough palm. McCurtain's a good one, too, from Oklahoma. And another one from Warren City, Arkansas. Southwest corner of Arkansas has a native stand of Sable Minor too. So we grow a lot of Razorback Sable Minor here. Good buddy Austin has sent me many seeds over the years, and also Trachycarpus from Arkansas. Who else we got here? Hey, Joe, nice to see you live. Dylan from Chicago.
Sweet.
Yeah, nice to see you guys on there. So I'm glad this is working. Wow. And if I'm talking too much, you can tell me to shut up. If you if you have any questions about northern palm growing, you can ask me some questions. So our climate here is in the Southern Gulf Islands is a northern zone 9A. And it's completely different than a southern zone 9A in Florida. Okay, so first of all, in Florida, you guys get the heat units in the wintertime. We don't get the heat units. So this is the way it works. Our temperatures, they don't drop below 20 degrees Fahrenheit. If they do drop below 20 degrees Fahrenheit, it is very, very rare. So the last time we dropped below 20 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 6.5 Celsius, was late December 2008. And it did actually cause considerable damage. Nothing to the trackies. Yeah. I lost a couple of big eucalyptus trees. Gosh. And I lost a Brahia armata. Well, I didn't lose a Brahia armata. It got damaged, and then it slowly faded away. I lost my Brahia edulis that was in the ground for 10 years. Phoebes. We got down to 18 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can figure that out in Celsius. You can go on online conversion. Also, our cordylines, the big ones froze down quite a ways, and they were flowering. They were like trees. They froze down, but they all came back again. So anything below 20 degrees Fahrenheit here in a bad winter is pretty rare. So that makes it as northern zone 9A. And anything below that, so you go 15 to 20 is about zone 8B. And when we get a freeze here, if it gets down to 22 degrees Fahrenheit, the daytime temperatures might not get much higher than 32 degrees Fahrenheit. If you're in Florida in a zone 9, you get down to 22 degrees Fahrenheit, you could pop right back up to 50, 60 degrees in the day. Time. It don't work that way this far north. There's a big difference between a zone 9A in the south and a zone 9A this north, all right? Cool, because I live in zone 9. Boise, Idaho, right on. Boise, yep. I think there's some palms growing in there too. I think there's probably some sable minor and Rapidophyllum histrix growing out there for sure. And if there is, make a video of them or post them on the Facebook group I have there, People Who Love Palm Trees and Exotic Plants, or I do have other groups out there, Banana Joe's Northern Palm Paradise, and Banana Joe's, there's another one out there, palm trees and exotic plants too. So, yes, we grow coconuts in our zone 9B in Port Charlotte. Hey, Dylan, where's Port Charlotte? Is that in Florida? You know where there's another known zone 9B is just south of me is Brookings, Oregon. Brookings, Oregon. Yeah. And for those of you that have not been to Brookings, Oregon, man, you ever get a chance, go to Brookings, Oregon. It'll blow you away. I've been down to the Oregon coast a ton of times. It's a short drive from here. We got to take a ferry to get off of our island. Once we get off of our island, it's a 6-hour drive to Portland. But what I do, I take the ferry from Victoria to Port Angeles, Washington, and we drive down to Olympia, Washington, and then book it over to Aberdeen, Washington. Take the Highway 1 right over to southern Washington and into Astoria, Oregon. You follow on down. And another, I guess it's another 6-hour drive to Brookings. Brookings is the banana belt of Oregon. There's date palms all over the place and lots of exotica. Big Washingtonias too. Do you need a passport? Yes, I need a passport. I go, before 9/11, we didn't need a passport, but now we need a passport. All I used was my birth certificate. And we go to Maui every year. Every winter we head to Maui and we got to use a passport. You need a mask. yeah, now you need a mask and a passport. It's funny, folks. There's no confirmed cases of COVID-19 on our island. Nothing that we've heard of. Yeah, I feel pretty safe here. I'm sure there's been some, but they kind of keep it hush. So life goes on as usual. I'm at work every day. There's nobody really locked down here or anything, but people are keeping their distance. There's nobody locked down here. If you come back from a vacation, you got to stay in quarantine.
Most our businesses are closed.
No, I'm talking about you being locked. You can't be, we're not locked down. No, we can go about our daily business. But when you go to the supermarket, everything's single file to get in there.
All the stores are closed.
Yeah, most of the stores are closed. Things are starting to open up slowly. We were supposed to go to Maui this summer, but we canceled, Dylan. I know, it's too bad. Sorry to hear that, but you know what? There's always other times. You'll love Maui. If you've never been to Maui, stay in Kihei. Kihei is the leeward side, and they only get about 9 to 10 inches of rain annually, and it's where kind of like the desert meets the tropics. It's awesome. Love Kihei, and I even like Waikiki, but as I get older, I kind of like the more laid back, and Kihei's a lot more laid back. And yes, Port Charlotte is on the southwest coast of beautiful Myers, Naples. If you, yeah, I know where that is for sure. So there's two islands out there, Sanibel and Captiva. It must be down off the. Is that by the Gulf of Mexico? Yeah, just a minute. Yeah, that'd be by the. You're on the Gulf of Mexico for sure. Great climate.
Wow.
Few hundred cases in my county in Virginia.
Oh,
Stay
really?
safe there, palm tree dude. Stay safe, man.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like a really bad case of the flu. And it's funny. I have a couple of friends that were in northern Italy, and I was talking to him because he walks around the track. I work for the parks department. He's walking around the track most days, and I asked him. I said, "Did you catch anything when you came? When you were in Italy?" And he says, "We had the really bad flu when we got back to Salt Spring. This was in January." And he says his girlfriend was laid up in bed for 8 days. I says, "Well, that was probably COVID-19. They were both really, really sick, but they didn't know at the time. But they didn't go out. They were just really sick. So that had to have been COVID-19." Supposed to go to USVI at Thomas's April, but deciding to go to Hawaii instead. Yeah, Hawaii, man, you'll love it. You can't beat Hawaii. Great climate, great culture.
People are
The
beautiful.
people are awesome, and there's a lot of history there too. And the plants. And if you go to Oahu, go to Lion Arboretum. They got about 600 species of palms there. Foster's Botanical Gardens and Coco Crater. Gulf of Mexico, yes, they're also inclusive island called Boca Grande, full of coconuts. You got to love it down there, man. That is the palm mecca. And so how far south would you be from Tallahassee? I'm just curious. Like, are you like maybe 500 miles south of Tallahassee? I know Tallahassee's way up north. And an interesting thing about Tallahassee, it can actually get pretty cold there. The record low for Tallahassee is -2 degrees Fahrenheit. And the record low for our island is 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So we haven't been below freezing here yet, even this far north. So we have the North Pacific current and the Japanese offshore current. And I know it's tough for some people to fathom how can we grow this stuff here. And if I could show you out the front yard, if I can flip this computer around, there's 100-foot eucalyptus trees all over the place. We cut them down for firewood. We just cut one down for firewood just this past weekend. I've been to West Palm Beach, Florida, very tropical. I've been to Miami, and I tell you what, man, there's a lot of palms in Miami. And it wasn't that humid, but I tell you what, when I landed there, it was in February '96. It was actually quite cold. It was in the lower 50s, but the next day it was really warm. When I woke up in the morning and got outside, it was absolutely beautiful and lots of cool palms. Planning to go to Sarasota, Florida. I've never been there. Guido, is that how you say that? Guido? Few hundred cases. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just reading some of the stuff. So this is working. This is kind of fun.
So cool.
I'm liking it. I'm liking it.
Test run.
This is the test run, guys. So thanks for being there for me. Thanks for watching my videos.
Yeah.
I know I do throw a few random ones in there every so often just to kind of break up the monotony. I just uploaded a video today of the seed drill I was using, pumping in more seed into our sports fields. So what it does, it slices the fields and then it pumps grass seed into them. We're always looking for thicker turf. And I'm not really into turf. We have no lawn in our garden. We just have a garden of a mix mash of Exotica and nothing in any particular order. Wendy has added.
Exotic.
I got together with Wendy 8 years ago, and she's added so many more plants to this garden, and she's made me cut down a lot more native stuff to put more Exotica in.
Cleared out just to get more sun.
Yeah, to get more sun. And we do actually have a lot of sun here on this acreage. Trails. It's quite nice. A lot of trails. She's always out there working and planting more stuff. Yeah. I have 3 eucalyptus trees here in Virginia. No damage. What type are they, Alec? I'm curious. I'm guessing Debuzavilli, Neglecta, and possibly Gunnii or Archerii. Am I correct? Well, there's about 700 species of ukes, right? We grow about 24 species here in our garden on Salt Spring Island. And, I planted most of these 3 decades ago. And they're pretty big trees. I got to keep. Wendy's getting at me to top some of these ones.
You tell them you're going to be wearing Hawaiian shirts for your.
Yeah, when I do my thing tomorrow, she says every time I do a live stream, I'm going to have to wear a tropical shirt. So I'm wearing my park shirt. You see that?
Parks and Trails.
I'm wearing my Parks and Trails shirt. So, let's just see. Can I grow date palms in Atlanta area? Short term. I think Atlanta is a very hot and humid climate, but it would be short term. Go for Butia, or some Mule Palms in Atlanta. I think you'd have to go more south for date palms, for Phoenix canariensis. Cider gum, Alec. Okay, good. Gunnii is a good one. I'm going to turn my computer around, and can you see that cider gum right there? There's a big one. Well, there's another one beside it this weekend. You can watch a video of me cutting it down. Actually, it's on Wendy's YouTube channel. I planted that tree just about 3 decades ago from a
Okay.
seedling. Big, and I keep topping that thing. So that's a cider gum. I'll tell you the interesting thing about it. Every morning we come out here when it's in bloom, and all you hear is bees. There's just billions of bees on that thing.
Yeah.
So they're really good for attracting bees. How do you like Kahanapali Beach? That's where we're going to stay. But you can, okay, so Kahanapali is really nice, but the only problem with Kahanapali, it rains a lot more over there.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a story. I got a good friend here in Salt Spring, and she loves to go to Kahanapali and stay at the resort there because she can stay for free. Yeah, it's past Lahaina. It's a long way out.
Yeah.
And we're in Kihei when she's there, and she's posting, oh, all it ever does is rain. All it ever does is rain. And I'm posting pictures of sun, right? Because it doesn't rain very much in Kihei. And she didn't believe us. So she drove over to our place. We were out, of course. And it was raining in Kahanapali, and it was totally sunny and dry on the leeward side of Kihei. So you always got to think about that when you travel to Hawaii. It's different all over the island. And it's different all over Salt Spring Island too. So we have 3 growing zones here, 8A, 8B, 9A. Salt Spring Island is just about 17 miles in length. It's 6 miles wide at the base and the south end, and it's very narrow where we live up here. It's probably not even a mile wide where we live on the very north end. So think about it. Narrow chunk of land, Pacific Ocean around it. It really regulates the air temperature so we don't get the extremes up here. What's the coldest and hottest Salt Spring gets? The hottest temperature recorded here is 100 degrees, 100.1 degrees Fahrenheit, but that was probably back in the 60s. It was back in the 60s. And the coldest temperature recorded was 5 degrees Fahrenheit in Ganges. But I know in the colder zones in zone 8A is minus 17.8. So about 0.1 degrees Fahrenheit. And I know that because I have the weather record. So there's some really cold areas on this island. And I'm being a weather observer. When there was these anomalies, and the old weather observer was alive, Alfred, we call him Alfred Temmel. He was a weather observer here since the 60s. We would phone each other and talk about it. And he lived in the Siberia of Salt Spring Island, he would call it. So he's recorded minus 17.8 there. So just above 0 degrees Fahrenheit. But you know what? There's a huge palm tree there. There's a huge palm tree there, and it was planted in 1968, and it's still going. I've got a picture of that palm tree where the lake is frozen, and it's grown beside that frozen lake. No, I don't have any seeds from it. I should pollinate. Do you grow trunking yucca? Yeah, Dylan, we have a lot of trunking yuccas in our property. There's one up at our tiny house here on the other end of the property. It's about 6 feet tall. It's probably 6 feet of trunk. That Yucca gloriosa.
Nice.
Yeah, there's some big ones on Salt Spring Island too. We have so many. How many yuccas do we have?
Oh my gosh.
I've lost count. 30, maybe 40 yuccas in our garden here. Lots of lots of cordylines, lots of Yucca gloriosa, recurvifolia, filamentosa. There's a mix mash. I'd like to get rostrata. Do you grow the chilly winter? Do slow down the growth? The chilly winter do slow down the growth. Yes, they do. But palm trees, Trachycarpus do grow year round here. James Palms, hey bro, what's going on, James from Ontario? How's the Washingtonia doing? Can you tell me a little bit about mule palms?
Canada.
Okay, interesting. So we do have some mule palms here. In our garden, we have Jubea cross Butea. We have Syagris cross Butea cross Jubea. And it actually looks a lot more like a Syagris. No damage. It's been outside 2 years now, 2 winters. And what I did with it, I put a couple of stakes, 3 stakes around it, and I just put a plastic bag over top of it. No artificial heat. It absolutely looks awesome. But I got this other palm here. Let me move the chair. And I thought it was a mule palm. I don't know if you can see that. Well, I dug it out. So this one survived the winter, but it's the only mule palm that had damage. Now, I'm thinking it's not a mule palm. I'm thinking it's a Syroxylon, because I'm pretty sure I had 2 Syroxylon in the greenhouse, and I put the Syroxylon in the garden, and it did show some damage about a month after the winter had passed. It started turning a little bit of brown on the fronds. Not dead. It is growing. So I dug it out, and I put a Butea in there because we've had this Butea capitata in a pot for a few years, and I decided to stick it where that, I think it's a Syroxylon. So Syroxylon's definitely not going to be hardy here, but Parajubea made it through the winter too. Are there native yucca to Salt Spring? No native yucca. Hey, Zachariah, Tennessee, the volunteer state. Hey, man, what's going on? Are there native yucca to Salt Spring? No, palm tree dude, but we have native cactus here. We have Opuntia fragilis, lots of native cactus here, and lots of native succulents. Sedum spathifolium, tons of it. You walk across the street to the beach, the banks are covered in it. You can see it in my videos here. Hey, Joe, Tiki Traveler. We like tikis.
Hey.
Maybe one, you know what? There used to be
Tiki.
palm trees native to Salt's palm fossils in town. And you know the
Oh,
ironic
yeah.
thing, it's funny. So years ago, I'm standing in town and a lady's looking at this rock face right in town. And she says, Joe, come over. You'd be interested in this. And I says, what's up? And she says, there's palm fossils here. It's like, whoa, I've lived here for years. I didn't know we had palm fossils on Salt Spring. And so I'm looking at these palm fossils, and you could see them in the rocks. They looked like they were fan palms. And she said a geologist that lives where we grow all the palms in town at Grace Point discovered them years ago. So one day I'm out there shooting a video, and he happens to drive by. So I stop and I ask him about these palms fossils. And he says, what had happened? The rock was laying down, and it was pushed up. And they were fan palms. They're between 70 and 80 million years old, he figures. So there, we do have palm fossils here. And the ironic thing, back in the 1990s, I sold that area a whole bunch of palm trees, and they planted palms in front of those palm fossils. So there's trackies growing in front of them now. We'll try Elata. Yeah, Yucca Elata is very hardy. There's some very old ones growing in Oroville, Washington, just south of Osoyoos, British Columbia, and they were planted in the early 60s, and they're probably 20 feet tall now. Love your page, Big Brick. Thanks, Big Brick. I rotted my rostrata. Yeah, put it in the ground. They need really well drainage. You know what? There's lots of rostrata growing on the coast here, and we get wet winters. Our annual rainfall on Salt Springs about 30 to 35 inches. We're in a rain shadow here, okay? The outer Gulf Islands are even drier than Salt Spring Island. So the southern Gulf Islands where I live consists of Salt Spring Island, which is the biggest. And it's called Salt Spring Island because we have a lot of salt springs here on the north end. There's Galliano, there's Maine, there's Pender, and South Pender, and then there's Saturna, and there's Prevost. So the outer Gulf Islands are actually drier than this one. Let's see, I'm just reading your comments. What species did it seem to be? Sable. My Washingtonia is good, James. My Washingtonia is good, but it's getting some small damage on the fronds. Yeah, it'll be. I think it'll be fine. It should be good. I have one in a pot that looks kind of crappy. Let me just spin this around here. Let me flip this over. Okay, so out of the way for a sec. Let me spin this over. We got palms everywhere. Can you see that Washingtonia there sticking out of frond? Okay, so that had no winter heat at all. And what I did, I stuck it in the tiki hut with no winter heat, and it did actually have damage. The low temperature was 22.1 degrees Fahrenheit one night in mid-January. It was, so that's -5. I guess it's -5.1 or -5.5, something like that. Yeah. I'm on the hunt for hardy trunkers, Dylan. Well, you know what? If you can't find them in a nursery, you can always get them. You can get seeds online too, but I mean, you got to be patient. You guys are young. I'm 56. I'm not young anymore. I like to buy things that are bigger already. I need some Commodore radicalis, Tennessee palms. Well, you know what? I do grow it in our garden. Commodore radicalis. I planted it in 1997. Have one growing underneath our tree fern, and it's never been damaged here. Never been protected. Never been damaged. And we also go Commodoria microspadax. That one looks okay. It's sending out growth, but it's growing on the side of our house close to the building. It seems fine. There's Livistona there in the corner there with some olives, and then there's some gardenias growing with it too. If you can see that. Let's see. Where are we? Right there under that overhang. And geez, I wish I had a long extension on this thing I could show you around the garden. But anyway, you can see my videos for that. Fan palms can be finicky. And I guess it depends on the fan palm too. There's so many different species, right? You know, and I've experimented with a lot of things over the years too. You know, I remember buying a 5-gallon Bismarckia nobilis at one of the nurseries south of Vancouver. And I was a bit of a sadist when it came to plants. I'd like to stick them outside, and then I'd write about them in one of the palm journals, right? One of our Palm Society journals. So I put the Bismarckia outside. I planted it in the ground. First winter, it's dead. It got down into the mid-20s and it was frickin' toast. I tried, I remember importing some Serrano repens from California. They froze in my Zone 8A climate. Tried lots of Livistona in Zone 8A. The odd one would make it if I piled leaves on them, put them close to the house under the overhang. I've overwintered Brugmansia outside. So I've tried most hardy palms I've experimented with. in my other growing zone. And here, yeah, we like to play around too, but most of the stuff we grow here is pretty hardy to our climate. Do you have Ailanthus, tree of heaven? No, we don't. But there's Ailanthus, I believe, is tree of heaven, right? There's a massive one right across from one of our park shops. It's got to be 40 feet tall with a massive spread, and it gets beautiful flowers on it. I need a new zone 8. It's too low for me. Well, you know what? That's the only reason I moved to Salt Spring Island. I got sick and tired of cold winters. So Vancouver's Zone 8B and 9A, especially around the city, you get into the urban heat. Once you get farther away from the ocean, I live 6 miles from the ocean at my last location, Zone 8A, Zone 8B. And the problem where I used to live southeast of Vancouver, 30 miles southeast, was the outflow winds in the winter. So when we did get a bad winter, it was brutal. The winds, man, were just killer. So you get these 40 to 60 mile an hour winds that would freeze dry everything in sight. And I remember one bad winter, it was in the late 80s. It freeze dried every broadleaf evergreen I could think of in our garden. I remember working in the garden that day and admiring my palm trees. It was early February 1989, and I'm listening to the radio, and they said this bad freeze is going to come in with full force. And I didn't really want to believe them, but you know what I did? I wrapped up some of my palm trunks with burlap, the Trachycarpus. And so in the daytime, it was probably in the 50s. It was mid 50s, lower to mid 50s. I was out working in the garden. And by nightfall, it was already down to around -7 degrees Celsius. And by morning, it was around -12. But that wasn't the worst part. It was the winds. And I just remember every trachy leaf being fried off. Arbutus strawberry trees fried. My tree ferns were killed. Eucalyptus trees froze to the ground. And I went through a lot of winters like that. And I said, that's it. Time to put the house up for sale and move to the Gulf Islands. And I did. My mom and dad bought here in the 70s, 1978. So I've always been gardening here at their place. And I just packed up my stuff and I sold my place here and I moved. I'm not looking back. I'm glad I did. My palms are happier too. Hey, Joe. And everyone. Hi, the palm guy. Hey, the palm guy. And I'm only 18. Well, you know what? I got kids older than you, Tennessee Palm. Zach, my youngest son's going to be 20 soon. My daughter turned 26. My oldest son is, God, he's on his way to 30 now. Ugh. Now I'm dating myself. Yeah, you know what? Just be happy with where you live. And you know what? If you live in Zone 8A or 6A or 5A, make do with what you got. If you're growing palms in Zone 5 or Zone 6, you're going to have to protect them. That's no big deal. You can enjoy them in the spring and summer. That's the way it is. Remember good old Mike Page, a good friend of mine? They called him Coconut Mike in Montreal. He had a garden full of palms, and he spent a ton of time protecting them, but it was well worth it. When he unveiled these things in the spring, that's what makes him happy. You know what I mean? Palm trees make us happy. So you know what? Doesn't matter where you live. If you live up in the Northwest Territories, Alaska, grow a palm tree. And palms do grow in Alaska. They survived in Sitka, Alaska for quite a long time. A member of our Palm Society planted some in Sitka up against a building. And I think they were there for maybe about 17, 18 years before they finally packed it in. You guys make me feel old. I'm 56. I'm old.
Who said that?
Scott's Gardening. Yeah, Mike was a good guy. We used to.
My God.
I send Mike a lot of palm trees
You
from
guys
here,
make
and
me
I've even
feel
send him
old.
a few tikis to Montreal.
You're never old.
No, you're never old.
Aren't old.
Hey, Wendy turned 60.
Hey, yeah. Whoa.
That's how you feel up here,
whoa.
man. It's how you feel up here.
Yeah.
So you keep planting and growing palm trees, it'll make you feel younger. But as you get my age, when you get to my age, you want to plant something that's a little bit bigger. So you're not going to be wanting to planting a seedling Jubea chilensis. You want to buy a big Jubea chilensis. Any of you growing Jubeas down there? How many of you guys are growing Jubea chilensis? Is there any way to speed up the growth of windmill palms and pindos? Pindos actually grow pretty quick here, and there's some pretty nice sized ones on our island. The oldest I know of are 25 years old, never protected. The key to fast growth, this is what I say, it stems from the roots. And I know that sounds funny, but my theory for growing plants is a $5 hole for a $1 plant. All right, so when you plant a windmill palm, a Trachycarpus fortunae, or whatever you're going to plant, don't just dig a dinky little hole and stick it in and pack some crappy soil around it. Dig a nice hole, put some good soil in it, amend it well, and water it well, fertilize it. You'll grow fast. Here's a good little thing. I'll tell you. It's 2001. I sold a friend a seedling, a palm. I don't know if I saw. I might have given it to him. It was a palm seedling in 2001. That palm tree, that Trachycarpus palm, is nearly 30 feet tall now, and he put it in good soil. It is close to a septic field, and it's not going to damage a septic field. But you can see videos of it here on my channel. It is. It's nearly 30 feet tall. No lie. It's just like wow. So that's a happy palm. That's the way to go. 50, 60 isn't old. That's right. It's not old. I need a Jubea. Yes, Jubea chilensis. Well, you know what? You're still young, Zach, so you can grow one from seed. And you can get them at Rare Palm Seeds, Jubea chilensis palm seeds. Go to rarepalmseeds.com. I was lucky enough to get mine from Locarno, Switzerland. And I've had seeds sent to me, actually collected from me in Chile from Jubea, and I sold those ones. But I kept one that I grew from Locarno, Switzerland, and it's in our garden, and it's just thriving. It's doing really well here. Fully hardy here. Gulf Island Rock says, no, you're not. It's Wendy on her computer in the living room. Put your mule palm outside. If you're in the south, I think mule palms are probably zone 8A, 8B. I don't know if they're going to grow in zone 7B long term, but Trachycarpus this far north are a long-term zone 8B palm. I do know of some beautiful specimens in zone 8A southeast of Vancouver, and I just acquired a bunch of seedlings from them, and I've got seed from them as well. And they were planted 30 years ago. But much farther you get from the ocean, the growing zones change, and it gets quite a bit colder. So most of the palms you see along our coast kind of hug the coast. They're close to the Pacific Ocean where the winters are mildest. He had a heart attack, from what I learned. Oh yeah, he wasn't that old either, Micah. He was in his late 40s. That's too bad. Yeah, he was a really good guy. I have noticed that heat makes trachycarpus fat. It does. Yeah, it absolutely does. Tennessee palms. I'll tell you a little story. Years ago, I sold a nursery on the Big Island, Victoria. He was in Saanich near Victoria. 800 of my palm seedlings, little palm seedlings. That was in March. I went back to bring him some seed in September, so it was mid to late September. He potted those 2.5-inch liner size pots up into 1-gallon pots. He fertilized them. He put them in his greenhouse with heat, and they already had split fronds on them. I didn't recognize them. I was blown away. So yes, heat, water, fertilizer makes them grow fast. Wow, too bad. I'm just reading some of your comments here. They're coming by pretty quick on the screen here. Yeah, it's sad. Yeah, Paul and Mike Page, Coconut Mike was really into palms, and a really nice fellow too. And as far as I know, I think he had a baby too. I think he just recently had a baby. So kind of a cool nickname. We got Pineapple. There's Pineapple Dan in Niagara. There's Coconut Mike, and then there's me. They call me Banana Joe. I didn't give myself that nickname. Trust me. I was just Joe. Back in high school, they used to call me Jungle Joe because I had long, messy hair. But as you can see, my hair is starting to recede now. Anyway, it was in the 1990s, and we had this wicked snowstorm. It was 96, I think it was. They called it the blizzard in 96 here because there was so much frickin' snow. It wasn't a blizzard. It just kept coming down, these big flakes, and we had 28.5 inches of snow. There was a write-up in the paper by one of the weather observers, and it said, I wonder how Banana Joe is doing with all his tropical plants on the north end of Salt Spring. And I think I still have that newspaper clipping. So this old weather observer, Robert Aston, I think he lived to 100 years old, and he gave me a Stevenson screen about 20 years ago or so. He's passed away years ago. He called me Banana Joe, and it stuck. So after that came out in the paper, everybody started calling me Banana Joe. So I did not make up my nickname. It's just something that stuck. And I guess I could be called worse things, right? At least I'm not, at least somebody's not coming up to me and calling me, hey, you a-hole. Banana Joe's better than that, right? And we do grow bananas. And I did introduce bananas to this island back in the early 90s. And, people scoffed at the idea, but you know what Musabaz, you were like, you can't kill the things. They're weeds, right? Where can I find mules? I'm in Atlanta. You know what? Should I say tie nursery? There's chili palm trees. Or I don't know if Gary does in Gary Holler. He has a palm nursery in North Carolina, but I think he specializes in sables. Put the word out on one of the palm forums, and somebody's got to have a mule palm for you. I had mine sent to me from Southern California seedlings. Look up Hurricane Huron. When a hurricane formed over the Great Lakes in 1990s. Cool. Hurricane. Well, we had hurricane force winds here in December 2018. And I swear to God, I hadn't seen anything like it. The last one to hit here that strong was Typhoon Frida in 1960. I think it was October 61. October 61. So a few years before I was born, and it ripped part of my mom and dad's roof off their house in Vancouver. And I think there was 8 deaths. We were fortunate here with the hurricane force winds we had in December 2018. There was no deaths, but I've never seen so much damage, destruction from wind. And we were lucky here. It missed us. It was almost like a tornado because it went around through these small areas and just ripped up and uprooted trees, trees on houses, trees on cars, power lines, power poles snapped in half, big trees snapped in half, and it missed us here on the north end of the island. We were very fortunate. But our power did go out. I said it before and I'll say it again. The best way to propagate musabaju, yep, you know it. It is dig them out. People ask for baju seeds. I've never really seen seeds offered for baju. I'm sure they probably exist, but best way is to divide is by division of pups from the mother plants. Tai is bad. Yeah, that's why I didn't really want to talk about tai. And their ads are really corny too. If you ever see their commercials, go look at their ads on YouTube. So yeah, I've never really heard too many good things about them, but I don't know. I've never bought anything from them. There's Jungle Fever, no Jungle Music. There's Phil Bergman in Southern California, in Westminster, California. He might have mules. There's used to be Neon Palm Nursery in California. I think I bought palms from them back in the 1980s. Anyway, guys.